didn't come out. All right, but we also have Kim Michaels that's coming up after this segment, and I'm sure he's going to have an amazing message from the Ascended Masters. But right now, let's just jump into the discussion of all of the primary snares that Lucifer, or in your book, Lucifer, or the devil in Napoleon Hill's book, uses to prevent people from achieving their goals and their potential in life. So, Will, you read the book, and so what are some of the main traps that struck you when you were reading the book?
Well, the main thing that the devil in his book points out, he basically tries to look for where the mind is being lazy,
yes,
and then he slips in,
yes,
and then he kind of fills in. It's like, if you're not going to think for yourself, I'll think for you.
Excellent.
And I'll start filling it in with all the
things that benefit him.
Yeah, that keep one going in the direction he wants.
And
us
he
to
calls
go.
it drifting.
He calls that drifting, right?
Yes.
That's his main strategy with us, is to get us to drift. And so, what is drifting? It's basically, let's see.
I think he calls it a lack of definite purpose.
Yeah, it's laziness plus indifference plus procrastination.
Anything that keeps you off task and off purpose.
Right.
And he was, the point that you made earlier, I remember my mother used to say, an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that that's a big problem with a lot of the young people,
Mm-hmm.
is there's too much idle time, and then they fill it up with things that actually don't benefit them and don't help them grow.
Yeah, that's right.
And achieve their goals. And then they wonder, why I'm not any further along than I am on the path.
And in this book, laziness is basically not thinking for yourself.
That's so true, because you're abdicating responsibility for figuring things out, and parents encourage that by, telling kids what to do all the time and making everything so structured. And then he talks about how the educational system actually exacerbates it, as do most of the religious institutions, by instilling fear and by not teaching kids practical things that they can use in their everyday life, and just having them memorize things.
Right. Yeah, actually, he took a big chance. This was written back in the 30s, but he took on
the two major institutions.
He took on the church. He took on the educational system. Very courageous.
Well, and what I noticed with your book and with his book is the voice that he uses for the devil is very similar to the voice that your Lucifer has, and that he's brutally honest and very, very candid. When you ask him a question, it's like you wouldn't expect him to just spill out his secrets. He's reluctant, if it's something that's really going to hurt his game.
Right.
But I love the candor in your book and in his book about how he traps people.
Yeah, and that's the nature of that dark side, the devil, or
the ego, or Lucifer, or
whatever we want to call it. It just pulls no punches and tells it like it is.
Well, and essentially, what would you say is, from your perspective, is the purpose of this dark side, in terms of the game?
Yeah, see, the way
its goal. What is its goal?
The way I understand it, you can't have light without a shadow.
Especially in a system like ours where it's duality.
Yes. So he's basically holding up his end of the game,
And what was really fascinating is he said that what he calls, the light or God, his opponent.
Right.
And he said his opponent doesn't bribe people, and he's very good at bribing people by dangling carrots of things that they really want, and that's how he's able to ensnare, he says, 98% of the population.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that number back in the 30s versus today, where he says, there's only 2% of the population that's out of his reach or out of his grasp, and he spends a lot of time, like in your book, on focusing on that 2%. So what do you think about the percentages today from the 1930s?
I think it's changed. I
Okay.
think that things are better now. I think that
In what way? Give me an example.
Well, when he wrote his book, he basically was focusing on the definite with your thinking. It was a lot about your thought.
Right.
Get clear on your thought, get clear on what you want in life. And I think what the big shift that I've seen is that on a spiritual level, there's been more an awareness of kind of a waking up.
Of what?
Of one's consciousness, like to
So you're saying that more people are aware of how their thoughts affect their reality and co-create their reality?
I'm saying that there's more presence. There's more a sense of I'm like snapping out of it. I'm awake.
So you're saying more people are waking up?
I think so. That was something
I would agree. And this definitely gives me hope that more people are waking up. But at the same time, as you show in your book, Lucifer is stepping up his game. As more people are waking up, he gets more sophisticated in the little traps that he comes up with.
That's exactly right.
So, I would agree that more people are waking up. But at the same time, that 98% versus the 2%, I don't think that there's a huge difference in the numbers of people that are really out of his grasp.
Right.
And I think it's dangerous for people on the spiritual path to get into this mindset of, I don't have any ego. I've got my ego under control.
Right, good luck.
And I have arrived,
Yeah.
and I'm safe, from any of the tricks. Because the ego is very, very crafty.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And just when you think you have extracted yourself from it,
It comes up with new and improved ways to test you.
Yeah.
And, I personally think that on this journey, Napoleon Hill talks about anger, and he talks about the inability to bounce back, from the setbacks in life. And that, and Kim Michaels always talks about how discouragement is the sharpest tool in the devil's, toolkit. And that, is used a lot. If you look at the world and the war and the poverty and the economics and all that, it's enough to depress anybody. And so I think on the spiritual path, we really need to focus on the solutions to these problems versus, I'm so caught up, in the problem and feeling powerless over the problem.
Well, yes. That's right. It's jumping in and doing something.
And what would you recommend?
Well, when it comes to
solutions,
like with one's anger.
Yes, let's use that.
Yeah. So I think that the main thing is to get to the root of things. What am I angry about?
And you talk about the shadow work. That's a part of the shadow work, right?
Yeah, I feel that the biggest thing that we can do is to, and it's like, to me, it's the one trap that I have seen on the spiritual path for most of us. It's that we're drawn to the light-filled virtues of spirituality. Integrity, love, generosity.
And those are beautiful goals.
They're wonderful goals.
Yeah,
They're very necessary.
And we should.
But what we tend to do is then completely ignore
our deficits and our
of
shortcomings
that we pushed down and away, right?
Yeah.
And we've rejected.
So you're saying when you get angry in that moment, take a moment to look at that and ask, am I really angry with that person, or is this a trigger from something else in my past?
Right.
And am I reacting?
Yeah.
Because reactiveness, I think, is a real trap
Right.
for people. And, like Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements, where he says, we make too many assumptions.
Right.
And when you assume something, you're going to jump to a wrong conclusion. And we take things so personal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one solution would be to not take anything personal and to look at other people's stuff, that triggers you and go, well, I don't have to react to it.
Right.
And that's just, and I've been able to distinguish between whether it's their stuff or my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, that would be a really good way to go.
Well, and in terms of, I really love the fact that he got into improper diet. I was blown away that in 1938 he was talking about improper food combining, overindulgence of rich foods. And something that I'm really big on is detoxing, cleaning out. I forget what he calls your... he has a cute little term for it, but literally he's talking about the need for colonics and enemas and how all of that congest the mind. Right. And a lot of people on the spiritual path, have you noticed that, and I've noticed that the higher up they get on the spiritual path, it's almost like they forget about their body and the importance of it being your vehicle for enlightenment.
And the body's our temple.
Exactly.
And I think that as we begin to evolve, that it's so important to take the body along to treat it as the temple that it is.
Well, and in this actual stage of our journey, that's one of our responsibilities is to take the body with us on this journey rather than literally treat it like a garbage dump and say, oh, the body really isn't important. All that's important is the mind and the spirit. And I think that we need this balance.
Well, I think to me, what is spirituality? In my view, to some degree, it's embodying one's being.
Yeah.
It's not like
and
it's
we're not
all
just
up
one
here.
thing.
Yes.
We have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body that is our identity. That's our true identity.
Right. And if we can balance
all of those
together.
That's the journey.
Yeah.
And so I think that one of the goals of the ego, from my experience, has been to prevent you from integrating yourself and becoming whole, because the ego wants to be in control and it wants to run everything. And if you get to the point, like Napoleon Hill says, where you think for yourself, well, what do you need your ego for?
Right.
Your ego is not, misleading you and pointing you in the wrong direction.
Right. And it defends itself.
Absolutely. And does a very good job.
Yeah.
I actually notice and I pay attention when people are defensive, and it's like, okay, so why are you defending an idiot? Your ego literally is an idiot, and you're defending it. Yeah. And I think we really need to take a look at our defense mechanisms. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, and in studio we have Will Snyder from www.lucifersgame.com, and he is the author of Lucifer's Game, and we're discussing Napoleon Hill's book and how you can outwit the devil, and his book, how you can evolve higher on the spiritual path. We'll be back with Kim Michaels after commercial break with our message from the Ascended Masters.
Hi, folks. This is Larry Minetti, and many of you out there suffer from skin problems. Well, I've been telling you for months how to solve that problem. It's called Herpannocin. It's the most unique and effective formula on the market. It cleans your skin from the inside out. It gets rid of all kinds of acne on your back, your neck, your face, so you can feel and you can look like a movie star. Herpannocin is a natural supplement. It was created by Dr. Wayne Diamond and his staff, and trust me, this really works. I've been on these supplements for over a year now and never had a problem. There is no reason in the world to wake up and be afraid to look in the mirror. You trust Larry. Just try it. Call 888-467-4200. 888-467-4200.
Are you worried about losing your home to foreclosure? If you've been threatened with foreclosure or receive legal papers from your bank, you have approximately 30 days to respond. If you do not respond, you could lose your home. You have rights. Act now to protect your rights. You can stay in your home. Many times you can even modify your loan. The bottom line is you can get past this, but you must act right now. If you've been served by your bank and you're worried about losing your home to foreclosure, now is the time to fight back and save your home. Time is limited, so call the professionals at National Foreclosure Defense right now.
800-515-6309. 800-515-6309. 800-515-6309. 800-515-6309. That number again is 800-515-6309.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-471-5173, 800-471-5173.
We're back with Kim Michaels and his message from the Ascended Masters. Welcome, Kim Michaels.
Thank you. I am the Ascended Master, Mother Mary, and I would like to comment on the topic of today's show, namely the shadow or the devil. Let me begin with the saying that you cannot have light without a shadow. But my beloved, is that statement universally true? Are there any shadows in the sun? Are there any shadows in the ascended realm? There is not. So why are there shadows on earth? What is it that creates a shadow? It is something that has solidity so that the light cannot penetrate. This means that if you are looking at it from the outside, you cannot see what is behind that solid wall. And this is how the minds of most people on earth are. Your shadow was born out of your desire to hide something, to hide what is going on inside your own mind. In the beginning, you wanted to hide this from your spiritual teacher, as we have described in several books given through this messenger. But you also have developed a desire to hide what is going on in your mind from other people. Now, my beloved, there is nothing inherently wrong with going through this experience. It is part of free will that you experiment with having your mind be closed to having others look into it. But it should only be a phase. And for most people on earth, it has become a trap, a prison. And the reason for this, my beloved, is very, very simple. You cannot hide what is going on inside your mind from other people or the teacher without hiding it from your own conscious mind. And if you do not see with your conscious mind what is going on in your subconscious mind, you cannot free yourself from it. This should be very simple logic. What does it take to ascend, my beloved? It does not take some magical ability. It does not take the help of a magical teacher. It takes only one thing, a willingness to look at absolutely everything in your own subconscious mind. Those of us who have ascended because after suffering for lifetimes on earth, we finally came to the point where we said, now I am willing to look at everything in my mind. And when we then did look at everything and dismissed all parts of our own shadow, all parts of our own ego, then we became invulnerable to the planetary, the collective force that you often call the devil. The devil was not created by God. The devil has no cosmic necessity. There is no need for a devil. But there is a temporary need for those who want to hide, because the devil serves as a justification for continuing to hide something from God, from the spiritual teacher, from other people. So in a sense, the devil is doing you a favor. He is helping you do what you say you want, namely having the perfect excuse for not looking into the abyss of your own subconscious mind. But of course, there is a price to be paid. The devil wants to be paid by getting your energy and your attention. And so when you get to the point where you have had enough of this, that is when you become open to the reality that you actually cannot get yourself out of your own ego and shadow without having a frame of reference that is beyond the shadow, because it is completely made of light. And that is where we of the Ascended Masters can help you, because we are, of course, only light. And therefore we can and we will give you that frame of reference. We have given it through many of our books and teachings, but as you apply these books and teachings and the tools we have given, we can give it to you personally as well. And I desire to see all of you get to that point where you can hear me inside your own mind, because you are no longer hearing your own shadow.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. That was powerful.
Yeah,
Thank you,
beautiful.
Kim. And that was so on the money.
Yeah,
so
great.
we will be discussing that after commercial break. Thank you, Mother Mary. Thank you, Kim Michaels. And we actually got Jose, so he's going to be doing the reading for the day, and he's going to be doing a short one for you, Will.
Oh, great.
So we'll be back after commercial break. You can check out Kim Michaels' work at transcendencetoolbox.com. He has over 40 books, and his books on the ego, I cannot recommend them enough. I am your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, and in studio is Will Snyder from lucifersgame.com.
Got a lot on your to-do list? Now, during Kubota's Power to Do Great Things sales event, get a great deal on an L3301 or 3901 tractor with a live continuous running rear PTO. Now get financing as low as 0% APR for up to 5 years, and great customer instant rebates when you buy a new L3301 or 3901 and 2 implements. Now through December 31st, 2015. Call toll-free 1-888-465-8268 for details about cost and terms. For more information or to find a participating dealer, visit Kubota.com.
The Doug Stephan Good Day program, early morning radio, and I guess it is radio, although it's radio on TV because this is CRN Digital Talk. You can find out what's going on in the world. We talk about the issues of the day, the events of the day, the people that people are talking about. We have an interesting way of looking at the news and having a little fun with the issues. So if you want to have some fun, learn a few things, and get up on the right side of the world, Doug Stephan's Good Day program, weekday mornings, 2 to 7 a.m. on CRN Digital Talk.
CRN travelers, relax at the beautiful Fountain Grove Inn and Conference Center in Santa Rosa, California. Come to quality and come to luxury. Experience the newly renovated guest rooms. They're generously sized and they're decorated in the Tuscan tradition. They have great, incredible pillow-top mattresses, luxurious linens, and down-filled comforters. The Fountain Grove Inn also offers complimentary Wi-Fi and internet access. There's warm cookies and coffee every evening in the hotel lobby, and you can visit the newly remodeled Equus Restaurant and Equus Lounge with its new wine bar. It's the ideal place to relax and enjoy a glass of wine, and watch our What's Cooking on Wine show on CRN with host Larry Van Alst on Wednesdays. It's the Fountain Grove Inn, Hotel, and Conference Center located in the heart of Sonoma wine country. It's easily located in Santa Rosa off the 101 Fountain Grove Parkway exit. Call 707-578-6101. That's 707-578-6101 or visit fountaingrovinn.com.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruth's Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1,800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
Okay, we're back, continuing this discussion about how you can outwit the devil. We just had a really powerful dictation from Mother Mary, giving us some incredible insight on the shadow side, and I was really blown away when she said that we created the shadow part of ourselves so that we could hide, and I totally resonate with that, and I can see that, and a big part of what you talk about in your book is the importance of not stuffing that shadow side of yourself and not hiding from the shadow, but facing it as the key to escaping from Lucifer's snare.
Yeah. Basically, you really can't reach any kind of inner equilibrium without looking at what we have buried and rejected.
Exactly.
You know, the shadow is this storehouse of all the stuff we've just pushed
away.
Well,
you called it, instead of us reaching wholeness, we actually reach halfness, and I'm going to let you explain that in a second. But what I think is really important to acknowledge is the fact that today, the taboo used to be don't talk about sex.
Right.
But today, the real taboo is don't talk about your darkness in the spiritual movement. And when you do start to talk about it, it makes people who are on the spiritual path, very upset or very much afraid, or they start pointing their finger at you and saying, well, you're feeding the darkness by acknowledging it, and all you have to do is just pretend that it's not there. Essentially, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But would you explain what you mean in the book about reaching, halfness versus wholeness?
Yeah. I mean, the idea of evolving is to reach a place of wholeness, right?
Yes.
And so if all you're doing is chasing the light, then
and refusing to look at your shadow,
look at all that energy that's underground,
or pretending you don't have any,
right? Especially pretending you don't have it.
Yes.
Then that's what Lucifer says in the book, that you're kidding yourself. You're basically reaching halfness, not wholeness.
Exactly.
Right.
You have a wonderful quote at the beginning of one of your chapters from George, was it Santayana? I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, where it says, it is a revenge the devil sometimes takes upon the virtuous, that he entraps them by the force of the very passion they have suppressed and think themselves superior to. Wow.
That's exactly what we're talking about, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And that, I find it so common after people reach a certain level on the spiritual path, and then it's like a glass ceiling. They don't go any further. And as you said, it's because they're unwilling to look at the shadow. And then the other quote you have is by Chris Jamie, and he says, to share your weakness is to make yourself vulnerable, and to make yourself vulnerable is to show your strength.
Right.
And I think for men, that's really hard.
It's huge.
You know, because patriarchy says, men, you got to be strong, and if you're vulnerable, if you show your vulnerability, then you're really not a man, and you're weak. And that's one of the traps that I think that the male consciousness has to overcome.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's really in our being able to be vulnerable that vulnerability opens us up, right? And which is one has to come from it opens up a place of strength. To be vulnerable is to actually be standing in strength. It takes strength to be able to hold that ground.
And I think young men need to be taught that.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that's a responsibility on the part of older men to step up to the plate and mentor some of these young guys and just take them in, you know, like as a son.
Yes.
So many of them are lost, and they need that strength, and they need someone to serve as a role model.
Yeah, and someone to show them that to be vulnerable is a place of power.
Yeah. Well, you know, in the book, what I was really fascinated with in your book is the Lucifer's interest in technology. And he says that on the one hand, it helps him with his game by distracting us from what's right in front of us. And you see that a lot with people getting caught up on the internet and all of these frivolous games and chat rooms and things that are just absolutely meaningless and nonsense. But on the other hand, Lucifer is disturbed about how it can bring people together in massive numbers.
Right.
And that's what I've used Facebook for and social media for to awaken consciousness and to encourage people to come together and address the dark side of the planet and the dark side of ourselves. So I do see both sides, you know, of the technology.
Yeah, and what he's referring to in the story is that, you know, my Lucifer in this book is his main interest is to keep us unconscious, to keep us in what he calls a waking sleep. So he's delighted that we're all walking around staring into our cell phones and distracted in this, you know, various ways. On the other hand, it's a new wild card for him, this ability like Twitter and these, you know, for
together.
Huge groups of people to gather. It's like
and it's certainly creating problems for repressive governments around the world.
Oh, yeah.
You know, including our own government who is spying on us. You have to think that they must be pretty threatened, you know, to come up with this whole network for NSA to be able to spy on everybody via their cell phones, via their the internet and television.
Yeah, that's right.
And everywhere you go, there are these cameras that, you know, and I was listening to that song this morning. I'll be watching you every step you take, every, you know, breath
every
you take.
Move you make.
Yeah, every move you make, I'll be watching you. And I was like, oh my God, George Orwell's 1984 has so come true. And I was warning students, you know, 2 decades ago that this was coming, and nobody believed me.
Here now.
And I'm looking around and I'm going, oh my God, there is nowhere to go. Nowhere to hide. They're watching you, but the only reason they would be is they're feeling threatened, and there's that need to control. So would you say that in terms of Lucifer's game, that one of his big issues is he wants to control everything?
Yeah. Basically what he's interested in is if everyone is walking around in what he calls a kind of a waking sleep.
Yeah, and it's true.
Yeah.
Like robots.
Right. Then then everything takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
Right? Then we're just playing
because you're on
into his
automatic
game.
pilot.
Yeah.
And here's a quote from your book where I love how candid he is. He says, "My main focus is not to keep you small. Do I tempt and distract you? Yes. But you keep yourself small. Remember, my focus is keeping the shadow world alive and well. It's not my fault that the human tendency is to take their darkness and, via denial, bury it alive rather than deal with it consciously." And that's exactly what Mother Mary was saying.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's a perfect.
So, I mean, you really, really tapped in with this book.
Yeah.
I mean, when I read it, I was like, whoa, okay, because I had already read Napoleon Hill's work. And I was literally very disappointed that the book was suppressed all of those years because
Hill's book
was suppressed all those years because I knew he was right when the devil said in his book that in one generation, if the people read that book and followed, the mastered, the tricks of the devil, that in one generation he would lose his grip on everything.
The quantum shift.
And I was at a workshop this weekend with Jose Munoz, who's on the show, and he was pointing out how fast we can turn things around in terms of the transition into the golden age. It's just a matter of us making that decision and coming together in small groups, because it has a ripple effect.
It doesn't take a large group. An amazing amount of power can spark out of a small group.
Absolutely. It has always been a small number. And a lot of us who are on this path of waking people up, it's easy to get discouraged and say, oh my God, that you look at all these zombies and they're refusing to wake up. And I have a lot of empathy for the people that are asleep when you consider the poisons in the air, the chemtrails are spraying neurotoxins. The water has fluoride that dumbs you down.
And the media.
And the food. And the media, the propaganda. It's like people don't even have a chance. So I just feel like it's an obligation of those of us who are awake, in spite of all of the obstacles that we have, to keep talking about it. Like discussions that you and I are having, on this show, are so important to just put it out in the quantum field.
Right. Yeah, and that comes back to my point about being willing to look at our shadow side, but with a sense of curiosity.
Yes, and not fear.
It's
it's the fear of it and the shame.
Yeah.
Instead of being ashamed of things that you did, I think if we can develop some compassion for ourselves and say, well, you know what? Yes, I did that, but at that time, I thought it was the right thing to do, or I didn't have all the information, I didn't know any better, I gave in to my weakness, whatever. Just own it.
Yeah, own it and forgive it.
But it's not who you are now.
Exactly.
It doesn't define your reality today. You can look at it, and I think the whole purpose of all of this is to just learn from it and go, wow, that hurt. That doesn't feel good, so I don't want that anymore. And we can disown it.
That's right.
Well, maybe that's not the right word, but we don't have to embrace it.
Yeah, and we can transcend it.
Transcend it.
Yeah,
that's the right word.
And free up all that energy.
Totally.
All that energy it takes to try to keep all that down.
That's a lot of energy. I think about when I think about people who manipulate and try to control everybody else, and it's like chasing the wind, because you're not going to contain the wind. You can't control other people because you can't even control yourself. And I just think, wow, if you took that energy and put that into yourself and freeing yourself of this need of thinking you can control anything, you'd be so powerful, but beyond belief.
But the trick that Lucifer actually reveals in Lucifer's game is that if you can stand in between the light and the shadow.
Yes.
and hold the two together.
That's the Tao, the middle. That's the way.
It's like, okay, I own this,
Yeah.
I own that, I own both sides.
Yeah.
Then that's a balance and a sense of equilibrium.
In and of
that
itself.
Yeah.
And then you can then, I think, as Mother Mary was saying, the Ascended Masters have transcended the darkness and there is no shadow because they were willing to do the work. I thought that was very powerful.
Exactly.
In the dictation where she said, they came back many, many lifetimes and decided enough of this already. I'm willing to do what it takes, not to be caught in this trap. And I think many, many of us on the spiritual path have gotten to that place. I know certainly I've gotten there, and I'm willing to look at whatever it takes, no matter how painful it is, and accept it and say, okay, now I'm ready to move out of this.
That's right.
And I know it sounds simplistic, and it's not as easy as I'm making it sound, but it just takes a willingness.
It takes willingness, it takes courage, it takes a sense of curiosity,
yes.
Willing to grow.
Fearlessness.
We outgrow things.
Yeah,
and
leaving
it,
things
right?
behind.
Yeah, fearlessness.
Yeah,
right.
we get attached to, images of ourselves and ideals of ourselves. But there's another quote from your book that I thought was really cool, where your character is pointing out, but what about the sleepy reality that you create for us, Lucifer? And he says, you think I'm creating that? Hardly. Get this straight. I don't create anything. I'm not an originator. I'm a facilitator. There's a world of difference there. Yeah. I didn't create this foggy state of consciousness the human race finds itself in, and I don't originate action to force the hand of man. I'm a sheeple herder. I simply guide you along. I facilitate the direction your precious ego always seems to want to go. Is the candle to blame that the moth flies into its flame? That was beautiful. And it's so absolutely true. And I was discussing this with one of my former students last night about how when we wake up to the fact that this is just a game, and, or what Shakespeare said, the whole world is a stage and everybody's playing a part. And when we wake up and say, okay, I don't like this role, I don't like this part that I'm playing, I'm going to step out of this and become a bigger person, then that's where our power lies. Right. Okay, do we have time to do Jose's? Oh, we don't have time before the break? Okay, we're getting close to the break. Okay, so we'll do Jose's on the outro.
Okay.
But I just think that your book and Napoleon Hill's book, if people get the two of those as a package, that everybody who's trying to figure out how can I get out of this mess, that I find myself in and liberate myself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, the tools are all there. And I think that they need to start with Napoleon Hill's book and get the basics and then move on to yours and then see where you're still being entrapped.
Yeah. They
do
dovetail really well.
Right?
And it's funny, I wrote
it's kind of magical,
game, right? It was finished before I read Napoleon.
Right. I had asked you about it, and I was like, did you read that book? And you were like, no. And
so it's the perfect compliment, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. But it showed me that you literally had tapped into a stream of consciousness that, its time had come, and it was time for the population to be ready to look at this.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that enough people are absolutely ready right now, but we got to keep beating the drum.
That's it.
And wake up as many as we can. Yeah. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant. We'll be back after commercial break, wrapping this up, and we'll be closing with Jose's his glyph for the day. You can find Will Snyder at lucifersgame.com, and his book is available on Amazon. Go out and get it. And Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil, today.
Thank you.
Hotel, Maui's Hawaiian Hotel.
Located in the heart of Maui's premier resorts, Kaanapali Beach Hotel is officially recognized as Hawaii's most Hawaiian hotel and the #1 best value in Hawaii. With a range of accommodations and affordable dining options, this is the ideal setting to turn Hawaiian dreams into lifelong memories. Live Hawaiian entertainment every evening, free year-round children's programs, weekly arts and crafts fairs, welcome breakfast, and departure Kukuilei ceremonies add to the value. Swim in the whale-shaped pool, indulge in the fabulous spa and hotel salon. Enjoy Hawaiian hospitality at its best at the Kaanapali Beach Hotel. Call 800-262-8450 or go to kbhmaui.com. That's kbhmaui.com. Aloha.
Kaanapali Beach Hotel, Maui's Hawaiian Hotel.
Are you nearing eligibility for Medicare benefits? Then you know now is an important time in your life. Medicare benefits can be a complicated puzzle. You don't want to overpay for your Medicare coverage or get the wrong plan. Let Health Markets Insurance Agency help you. With one free phone call, a licensed insurance agent will help you select a Medicare plan that's right for you and your budget. If you're becoming eligible for Medicare, call today and learn how to get the most out of your benefits.
800-793-1960. 800-793-1960.
Health Markets Insurance Agency is the DBA or assumed name of InSphere Insurance Solutions, Inc., which is an authorized insurance agency in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service and product availability varies by state.
Call 800-793-1960. 800-793-1960. 800-793-1960. 800-793-1960.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-471-5173, 800-471-5173.
Okay, we're back, wrapping this up with Divine Love Talk. My guest is Will Snyder, and coming up right now is Jose Munoz, timekeeper for the new Six Sun calendar. All right, hit it, Jose.
Today, November 2nd of 2015, we have the energy of the day through the Mayan ways of seeing cyclical time, and we see that we have the day of Lahun Kame Simi, which is the 10th day of our brothers and sisters, the Kame Simi walkings around the world. This is the day where we unite around the world, the stone and crystal skull holders. We pray for peace in unity. And this is the day where we are grateful for all the transformations that we have been through in our lifetimes. Today we pray and we ask to unite in prayer, so together we transform and take the necessary steps to bring this world to practice love, peace, and harmony around the world, starting with ourselves, of course. And that is the energy of the day. We also have a reading for Will, born on February 21st of 1952. We have that Will has been born, conceived during the time where it's granted sacred authority. So the message for our Brother Will, is exercise the authority you have been given. This means in the practical world that since your childhood, you have been an authoritative child, and sometimes that seems to be as arrogancy by your parents, your teachers, any other corpse of authority that we see in our lives. Your authority is sacred. Therefore, the other authorities see you as competition. They see you as arrogancy, but we're here to, in a humble way, ask you to exercise your authority because it's sacred. We also have here that you have the vision of the eagle, the ability to sacrifice for others in perfect balance. Thank you for doing that work. A lot of these brothers and sisters sacrifice too much for others. We see here that you sacrifice in perfect balance, and we thank you for that. And that is due to the fact that you already know everything, having that crocodile abilities in your path, in your past, present, and future. When you need advice from anybody, the only one that's going to give you the real advice, the real answer that you're seeking for, is the sacred fire. So thank you for doing your work in past, present, and future. Continue to exercise your authority. Aho, Bantiosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Oh, powerful. That's sacred authority. And in this book, you definitely stepped into it, and Jose tapped into how it was a threat to your parents and teachers. You couldn't have known that because I didn't talk to him about it. That's powerful. Well, thank you for joining us today on Divine Love Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant. Check us out on Facebook at Parthenia Onassis Grant. And Will Snyder, you can pick up his book at Amazon.com, Lucifer's Game, and at lucifersgame.com. Kim Michaels, you can find him at Transcendence Toolbox. And Jose, you can reach him at unitylovepeace33@gmail.com to get your own personal reading from Jose, and I highly recommend that for those of you who are trying to clear your path and move up on it. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with Kim Michaels' new edition of Don't Drink Your Own Kool-Aid.
Cool. Thank you, Parthenia.
Which was most important because that was your theme.
Are you tired of hearing your favorite talk radio shows sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows in crystal clear, high-definition digital sound? Well, with CRN Digital Talk Radio's 6 channels of high-definition radio, you can now hear all of your favorite hosts like you've never heard them before in CRN HD. The difference is amazing. Catch your favorite political hosts like Dennis Prager, Tom Hartman, Barry Farber, and so many more. Entertainment and lifestyle programming like the Robert Conrad